Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to be sharing with you all about the Mindful Eating MBE program, what mindful eating is, why it can absolutely transform your practice, this approach, and introduce some tools that we use and get all your questions answered about this program. So mindful eating is a practice that completely transforms the way that we work with our clients and with ourselves as well. And this program, the MBE, Mindful Eating and Living Professional Training Program, one of the beauties of this program and unique aspects is this is a very, very thorough training over 3 months, where you really learn how to embody and practice mindful eating for yourself, as well as learn how to confidently lead and facilitate mindful eating sessions one-on-one with your clients, incorporating it into whatever your practice is. I know that we likely have psychologists here, dietitians, health coaches, counselors. So you're going to learn a really, really strong skill set and leave feeling confident with a full program and approach, with curriculum, with practices and scripts, and just a whole framework how to teach the program for those of you that are here because you want to teach mindful eating. And it's transformative. I just was on a session yesterday, and the current students were just all saying how much this is the surprises, because a lot of times people come in thinking it's just for their clients, but it's completely transformative for you as well, wherever you're at in your journey with eating. Some of you might be in recovery. And some of you may have years ago had eating disorder that you overcame, and yet this program will offer even more wonderful, wonderful benefits along that journey. So this was the kind of program that I wish I had when I became a nutritionist in the 1980s. I'm so grateful at this time that there are so many ways to work and so much wonderful training available to us as nutritionists, as registered dietitians. So mindful eating, I'm going to say a couple things about MB Eat. Mindfulness-based eating awareness training. This program is really what's put mindful eating on the map in healthcare, in other settings. There's been a lot of research, National Institute of Health, NIH-funded research on this program, and over many years, different studies and research. So it's really the pioneer and bringing mindful eating into healthcare and in the mainstream. It's taught and mentioned in universities, and it helps. Having this evidence-based background helps you if you're bringing the program into a clinic, a university, a health center, a medical center. So this evidence base is really, really important, and a lot of reasons why people are very excited to learn MBE that recognize evidence-based background. The program has also evolved over the years. So I am very passionate about weight neutral and weight inclusive approaches to health and well-being and coming into balance. And so as with time, we've evolved into, even though it was always a non-diet approach, I will say even more, right? With the consciousness of how diet culture harms us, harms our clients, and And so it's really a whole retraining away from that and finding a new way to live and be in a really healthy relationship with food. And who does this program help? Well, everyone eats, right? So everyone eats. It actually is helpful for everyone, but on a whole spectrum. Specifically, in a lot of the research, it's been studied with binge eaters in the beginning, and it's been very effective with binge eating, bringing people out of. Some of the research showed just at 3 months or 4 month follow-up, people that were binging on average, this was on average 4 times a week, went down to 1.4 times. And also the size of the binges compared to the control group were much smaller. And then over time, people really moved out of it completely. I've worked with many, many people over the years and individual clients, and it's really effective for moving people out of binge eating over time. It can be also used, although not studied specifically, with people with bulimia. It works very well. And of course, working with some other healthcare providers if you're working with someone with bulimia. Any level of disordered eating really helps bring people out of disordered eating, overeating, any kind of overeating, compulsive eating. And then on the whole other end, people that simply want to learn, just want to get out of diet mentality or out of the yo-yo dieting and learn to enjoy their food again, learn to have a nourishing relationship, to have joy and savor. Mindful eating is, we have cooks sometimes that come in. We have a lot of cooks that I always love to work with cooks and chefs, I should say chefs. And just to learn a whole new way to be with food. There's so much to say. Because it's based in mindfulness, another unique aspect of this program, it's not, you do hear mindful eating a lot. Mindful eating is out there a lot, but it is often just, it's behavioral techniques, kind of intellectual. Like, let's bring mindfulness to our eating. This is a thorough training in training not only yourself, but training so we can train our clients in mindfulness. You learn how to lead basic mindfulness meditation. And so there's there's something called teachbacks in our program. So you're going to work with other people and get feedback. And for all the different practices, this program is filled with tools and practices to bring awareness to our inner experience. We call it inner wisdom, levels of hunger and fullness and satiety. We have 3 different ways that we measure satiety. We really hone down. So people that feel so disordered and so disordered with their eating and out of touch with their bodies are learning a lot of different tools to come into balance with mindfulness, with learning how to cultivate kind awareness, kind attention, non-judging, a kind voice. There's so much judgment, right, around food, bodies, behavior. So because this is mindfulness based, there's a lot that happens inside. You, our clients, will develop more compassion, more kindness, and that more ability to make different choices. So mindfulness helps us to develop that space, create that space between stimulus and response. Okay, so that stimulus can be that leads to eating, that trigger, and overeating or eating the kinds of foods that can make us not feel well, etc. The highly processed foods, overeating, binging That stimulus could be emotions. It could be just food in front of you at a social event. It could be stress. It could be the thought. But mindfulness helps us bring awareness to our inner experience and outer to the triggers to create a space between stimulus and response. And within that lies our freedom. And there's a quote about that by Viktor Frankl: between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space, therein lies our freedom. I've modified that quote a little bit. It's also in that response lies our freedom. But creating that space, that's one of the things we're really going to be training you to cultivate inside and be able to teach your clients this mindfulness-based approach. Many of you will have come with a mindfulness experience already. We have mindfulness teachers that come in. So that's great. That's wonderful that you have that basis already. But putting together mindfulness and eating is a whole nother piece. And over the years, I have had clients that practice mindfulness, but they were still completely struggling because their eating didn't have all the tools to work with their eating issues. So you're going to learn a lot of tools, as I said, to cultivate that inner wisdom. And information, practice, awareness is freedom and power, and that ability to make choices that are caring and nourishing and fit with our intentions, whatever those may be, whatever intentions that people have for themselves. So in this program, we meet weekly. We meet on Fridays Pacific time from 10 to 12, and it's very live, interactive, community building. Sometimes we do breakout rooms, and we do kind of a mini session in a sense of what the 12-week outpatient or patient or public program is. And so we always have meditation, and after a few weeks, those of you in the program are going to lead. You'll lead the 10-minute meditation and get feedback, which is a fantastic way to learn to really fine-tune those skills and really understand the subtleties of leading mindfulness meditation. And that also develops further as you practice over these 3 months. We learn new skills. We have check-ins. We put on both our professional and personal hats. So you will be learning the practices as participants. We'll be discussing them. And then we'll also put on our professional training hats. And how do we work with clients with these? What kinds of things come up? How to field those questions, how to guide clients, how to guide a class, a group. And there's also around the 5th week, between the 4th and 5th week, you're going to be paired up with another person from the program. Usually, like, we try to pair you in your time zone and with your professions, and you're going to be practicing leading them through these different practices and getting feedback. And then you're also going to be receiving the practices. So it's really thorough in terms of you feeling confident, right? And developing those skills. We also have a coaching session towards the end. We're really personalizing, bringing this practice to your population, to your setting, how you want to bring this into the world. It's flexible. You're being trained to teach the 12-week program and all the core skills. It can also be easily offered, translated into working one-on-one with clients. So I've developed a coaching approach many years ago, 10 years ago, So you can also use all of this individually, and you can use it for presentations, letting people understand the basics of mindful eating, which is a great way to bring people into your practice and into your programs. So mindful eating can be integrated into medical nutrition as well for those clients that are interested. Our medical nutrition therapy. But I think what a lot of people find is they love this approach so much and working with clients in this way that they'll have a whole separate, they might make their whole practice around working with mindful eating, disordered eating, binge eating, and follow the program, bringing in all these different skills and tools. We also work with our clients where they're at. So it's very client centered. So if they come in with something else for a session, then you can easily bring in something. We have practices, from another session. So you're going to learn the practices addressing forgiveness, beautiful scripts, forgiveness practice, self-acceptance practice, loving kindness meditation, eating triggers meditation. We have a beautiful practice called wisdom meditation, mindfully savoring. You're going to just get a really rich cornucopia of practices to use with your clients. Okay, typical class size. We typically have 25 people in our professional training program, but in the actual Zoom classroom, we have about 15 which is a perfect size, because we have the flex option. And we have the flex option is, especially for people in different time zones, if you're working full time and you can't get Friday off, you can watch the recordings of the Friday classes. But it's still very interactive and engaged because you're going to be working with another partner by the 4th week. And we also have special, we call it the Flex program, Flex Q&As at a different time. There's one a month, so you can check in with our group and ask questions. And we also have 2 Q&As, dedicated Q&As outside of our regular class time. So there's lots of opportunities. And we also have our 6-hour retreat on a Saturday. That is really wonderful. Well, I'm a mindfulness-based registered dietitian nutritionist, a teacher trainer, yoga instructor, certified mindfulness meditation teacher, Dharma teacher. I've had a really long, rich, and wonderful career. I have a master's in public health, and I worked at Kaiser for over 20 years. And I've always been very interested in the holistic approach of working with clients. And what I love about the mindfulness-based approach is we're working with the whole person. We're not working with, so many of you are nutritionists, we're not working with just here's a diet plan, follow it. We're working with real life. We learn to work skillfully as it relates to food and eating and body, with thoughts, feelings, beliefs in a mindful context. We learn to be able to guide our clients. It's a whole person. I just want to mention briefly that there's a companion program called Well Nourished Coach Training, which is really awesome. And a lot of people take that as well afterwards. And that's where you really, it's very detailed about working one-on-one, motivational interviewing, positive, working with powerful coaching questions, and positive psychology, neuroscience, the science of change. But that mindfulness base is really, really essential and part of that, working one-on-one with the whole person. So you're going to learn to be really much more confident in working that way with your clients. And and eating behavior doesn't occur in a vacuum. So Well Nourished, my book, is required reading. And so that also opens up looking at all the different parts of ourselves that need nourishment as well. And when we're more nourished in different parts of our lives, we are more resilient and we have more tools and skills. We can be less stressed. And that also helps with our relationship with eating. So we're going to touch upon that too in the MBE training, and then you'll have the book. And then if you want to go further into working with the whole person, then there's the Well Nourished Coach training. I'm a mindfulness-based stress reduction instructor as well since 1993. So I've been working with mindfulness. I've had my own practice since the 1980s. It's a very, very strong part of my life and my teaching, and I'm in love with the practice. And so 10 years ago, how did I get into mindful eating? 10 years ago, I was invited to apply for a research study using MBEAT and at San Francisco at UCSF, and becoming an instructor and a consultant on the study. And so it brought together my strong background in mindfulness and being a teacher of mindfulness, and as a nutritionist with a passion for integrative nutrition and food as medicine and healing, bringing them together. And I saw such transformation in these programs that we were teaching. And I knew that from here on end, I wanted to focus on mindful eating. It really brought together these two passions of mindfulness and nutrition in a way to work that was completely transformative for people's lives. So it's, the food and the eating issues is a doorway in, called a portal to mindfulness and really changing people's lives and your own as well. And then at Kaiser too, I directed behavioral health programs for many years, developed many mind-body programs, mindfulness, did training regionally in Northern California, introducing the mindfulness-based stress reduction program to the different facilities, and also a mind-body program, pain management. So I've worked a lot with mind-body and mindfulness type programs, both as a clinician, a teacher, and teacher training, like all through my career. So one of my passions is training all of you as well to transform your own practice and bring this out into the world and to your clients. It's really rewarding. It's such a rewarding way to work. And you also learn, one of the things we don't learn as nutritionists often, coaches, therapists, any therapists here will have more background with that, but what to do when people have emotions come up, strong emotions. So we learn not only how to be able to be present, compassionate, and centered when that happens with our clients, but part of that comes from learning how, with mindfulness, how to be with challenging emotions that we have that come up in our lives, and how to navigate them and the challenging thoughts and beliefs, and learn to be more balanced and not at the whim of the kind of the swaying stormy sea that can happen of life, right? And in relationship to food and eating. Now, this program is more timely than ever. I just read another article about stress eating during the pandemic, and there's been a lot of stress eating, a lot of weight gain. People feel less in control of their lives. And a lot of I think in many places things are starting to settle down some, but a lot of the ways that people would typically feel nourished, not just with food, right, were taken away over the last year and a half. So people are kind of refinding their ground again, and finding new relationship to food again, and putting it in balance, getting it back in balance with the rest of their lives, and finding sometimes new ways to nourish as well. So this is just a really great time to add this skill set and be able to work with people, and very rewarding. So we have the mindfulness meditation is a core practice that we teach, cultivating mindfulness. And then as we go through over the weeks, working with our clients one-on-one or in a group, we introduce general mindfulness meditation practice. So that's bringing all our senses to our eating. It's very interactive. We start with a raisin. Many of you may have done a raisin practice. This is not your typical raisin practice that you might do in an MBSR program. We have a detailed script, and it brings awareness, not only with all your senses to the experience, but we immediately begin to start cultivating awareness of thoughts and feelings. Like, what are we bringing to the table? How does it impact our eating? And then we work with a hunger awareness. We work with scales. People find it incredibly helpful. It's a way to tune into what's happening in the inner experience. So scripts, we have full practices working with hunger awareness. We have, we use a chart pad. We work interactively, charting people's experience, helping people understand what happens when you aren't listening to hunger, right? And when you get really hungry, what happens? And that often getting really hungry can be a result of diet culture, of that habit of not listening to hunger signals, of maybe restricting during the day, eating small amounts, ending up really hungry, overeating later. This is just one of the many patterns that can happen. When we get really hungry, we do tend to overeat, and what we choose to eat is not very discerning, right? It's usually the easy, rich, processed foods. So hunger awareness is really important. And we could spend like this is just touching so lightly upon it and the different patterns and why people have the different patterns. It can also go back to food insecurity, growing up, not enough food, developing a different relationship to amounts of food and hunger. So hunger awareness, fullness, we have a lot of different satiety practices. So we separate fullness from hunger. There is a relationship, absolutely. Some of you may have learned a scale with hunger on one side, fullness on the other. That's actually, it's actually kind of a rough scale, because hunger and fullness, physical fullness, are two different processes. Hunger has to do with the amount of energy that you're taking in and what you ate. When was the last time you ate? Of course, there's hormones involved. We're physical, and then blood sugar levels, whereas fullness is the actual physical fullness in the stomach, the volume. And so understanding the difference is a way to fine tune our eating. So we spend a lot of time on that too, which is very eye-opening for people and helps people come into better balance. And then taste, we have practices with taste satiety, which Dr. Christeller, by the way, Jean Christeller, developed this program over many years. And then I've been involved in the last 10 years, continuing to help develop and refine and update. And how did sorry, I'm jumping around, get into the teacher training. 10 years ago, I was invited to be a teacher trainer with Jean in person. So we did a lot of in-person trainings. And then I developed the online program, which has been incredible because you have the 3 months over time to really learn the program and internalize it, really refine your skill and understand it as a client, as a patient would go through it over 3 months. So different levels of satiety, working with food, we're always working with food. And then we have guided practices, because like there's an eating triggers meditation that's really powerful, that brings awareness to the different triggers. And then we have a practice, once people have learned a lot of different mindful eating tools, inner wisdom, call it. Then we have a practice understanding a whole chain of overeating, what leads to that. And that is extremely enlightening for people. And then learning to break that chain, because overeating doesn't happen in a vacuum. So we map out the thoughts, the feelings, the events that can lead to that overeating. Okay, so I want to teach you a practice. So this practice is using mindfulness, and I call it, it can be called a mini meditation or a mindful check-in. And we're really looking at what are we bringing to the table when we come to eat. This is both metaphorically and literally. Are we bringing emotion? Are we bringing stress? Are we bringing anger, frustration, sadness? Are we tired? Are we having thoughts? Are we thinking about something really worrying so that we aren't even really present? So mindless eating is so ubiquitous, right? In this world, we might even be watching TV or looking at a computer. We're not even aware of what we're eating. So this mindful check-in helps us become present before we eat, before we even make our choices, and check in. What is it that I'm bringing to the table? Am I truly physically hungry? So physical hunger is kind of our foundation. So we learn physical hunger, practice before we even do this. This practice that I'm teaching you actually comes around the 3rd week, after some mindfulness skills and tools are already established, and hunger awareness. And so once we become aware of what we're bringing to the table, then there's more of that space that we talked about, right? To make a choice. Maybe on our portion sizes, or maybe we notice that we're actually not hungry at all and we're just really stressed and we're needing something else, maybe not food, some other form of nourishment. So we work a lot on other forms of nourishment as well, emotional nourishment, psychological nourishment, and other choices. Also, before I teach this, I'm going to say one of the principles of mindful eating too, this program, is we get rid of good foods and bad foods, right? That's such a big part of diet mentality. I like to call it more always foods and sometimes foods. So it doesn't mean that eating our favorite treats or sweets or maybe some processed foods, that we can get rid of it as bad. And we can, as we work mindfully, we start to really diminish any guilt or shame or feeling bad around that, which actually can create more eating and more overeating from that. Mindful eating helps break that cycle from that I've blown it effect, to consciously choose those sometimes foods when we want, and to learn to mindfully eat them, enjoying more, but eating less. So that is something that really happens a lot, learning to enjoy more, but eat less, particularly of those snacky processed foods. It also helps us, though, learn to enjoy more. Sometimes people, as I mentioned, might be not eating enough during the day, and that diet mentality patterns of restricting. So learning through tuning in to hunger levels, what one really needs, and starting to let go of the disordered eating thoughts, etc., learning how to eat more and enjoy and let the body be nourished. Okay. That said, this program isn't developed for people with anorexia. Some of the principles can be used, but if any of you work with clients with anorexia, I'm happy to talk with you more about what aspects could be adapted. But because some of the exercises that we're doing, and we're doing some with, like, there's cheese and crackers, but we're really learning to enjoy more but eat less. Some of these really snacky foods that we tend often to eat more, it wouldn't, some of these practices wouldn't be appropriate for somebody that's really working on a refeeding and really working on nourishing themselves and eating more. And it's a whole nother method and practices for that. But later on, some of these principles can help. And I've had people, recovered anorexics, take this program and gain great benefit from it, but not somebody that is like really working in recovery. So I just want to put that caveat out there. So let's see, what are we bringing to the table? All right, so let's get comfortable, feet flat on the ground, sitting with a nice straight posture. And taking a few deep, relaxing breaths in and out, in through the nose, and exhale. Deep breath in again. And exhaling any tension in the body that you might be aware of, and any tension in the mind. Just letting that go with the exhale. Breathing in again, the nourishing air. Out. And now, just for a moment, just bring to mind, visualize a snack or a meal that you might be sitting down to. Visualize it in front of you. Might be a meal that you're going to have, the next meal or snack. Could be one that you already had today. Seeing it clearly. Again, once you've seen that clearly, take a few deep, relaxing breaths. Again, breathing out any tension you might be aware of. And then letting the breath return to its natural rhythm, whatever that is right now. And now noticing, just noticing what thoughts are going through your mind right now. Any feelings, feeling tone, emotions that might be present, physical sensations. Anything that's present right now, and particularly related to the food that you're imagining that you're about to eat. You might see that food again very clearly, just imagining it. What are you bringing to the table in this moment? Just coming back now, checking in to your experience, thoughts, feeling. And how might what you become aware of inform your eating choice? And by bringing awareness to what you're bringing to the table in this moment, how might you let go of what isn't serving you in this moment? How might you actually adjust how you might be approaching this meal or snack? How might it inform your eating? And then begin to enjoy mindfully your meal or snack. And then when you're ready, opening your eyes. So this practice, we don't actually visualize as we go about our day, but it's taught the way we teach, and there's whole scripts with this, and it's already building on skills that you will already have been learning and your clients. So if it was a little difficult to check in and feel it was present and see, that's fine. Don't worry about that. We build every week, we're building on skills. But I wanted to give you an example of tuning in and seeing what we're bringing to the table. And so we do this in real life and seeing what it is that we truly need. Maybe things that would be getting in the way of being mindfully present really brings us present. If we have a practice of appreciation, of gratitude for food, we can bring it in with this practice. And this mini meditation has been found to be a really powerful tool in the research. And one of the studies where they looked at weight outcomes, it was most connected to actually weight that was lost. People were really tuning in. One of the research outcomes that was found is the group that learned mindful eating lost weight significantly. Well, actually, yes, over the control group, but also they had better metabolic health, and which is really, really important in terms of course, health and well-being. So we're focusing more on that, by the way. We're not putting a lot of focus on weight at all in this program. We're focusing on health and well-being and coming to balance and relationship to food. And yes, weight can very much come off as people come into balance, but we're getting out of that diet mentality of mindful eating as a diet. It's a whole new way of living and eating that is sustainable, that helps us stay in balance. But so at 18 months, people in the mindful eating group ate less processed food, significantly less, which is also really an awesome outcome. They maintained that at 18 months. If you're interested in Well-Nourished Coach training, let me know, because I have some intros to that I can actually forward you and you can watch. It's an incredible program, and the two make a great complement with each other. Okay, thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye.